Hey YouTube, what's up? Bank 60's back here with another exciting installment of U-Boat. Again, a new favorite of mine. You know, I regret to tell you here in this particular installment that I'm having to skip ahead. I had some issues with my my setup here at home, and the game I'm continuing is going to be skipping ahead a bit from when you saw me playing before. I got involved in a mission that was really exciting. It was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, though, my recording equipment wasn't working for the entire time that I did the mission. I got through all of it. It was a raid on Scapa Flow, which is a really busy Allied port. Very dangerous mission. Some would even call it certain death. But I managed to get through it okay and complete the objective. And you'll be picking it up now as I'm making my way back to my home port. And then I'll have a chance to show you a little bit of what goes on when you go back in your home port and get yourself ready for your next mission. All right, so it's nighttime now, and we are sneaking out of Scapa Flow after having successfully attacked a number of ships there. We're now making our way out. Now we have a visual contact here. Not sure what that is. We're letting our officers rest right now. I don't think, I tell you, it'd probably be good to go ahead and get somebody on the observation periscope. My compressed air reserves are lower than they should be at 98%. And I'd showed you a little bit about how that function works. Here could be a problem. My oxygen level being low. The time, right now, we're at nearly 1 a.m. 6 August 1941. As you can see, we've fast forwarded a bit through time here. And as far as that visual contact, I don't see what that could have been. I'll tell you, the moonlight's not going to help us if we get on the surface. That's one thing to consider here. Wonder if the moonlight can help us see what this might be. I don't think there really is anything over here. This might be a little bit of a glitchy thing in the game. I'll go ahead and erase that point for now and speed up time a bit. We'll watch that air quality. And then we'll be coming up to the surface here shortly. And I hate it. I keep overworking this guy in the midst of all this. It was a pretty tight situation here. I really kind of stuck to this area here and fired some long-range shots. Hit a Corvette, hit a destroyer here. And that was about it. All I needed to go ahead and boogie. And so that's what I'm doing now. And in the midst of it, this guy was very, very busy. Very, very busy. I'll tell you one thing I'm going to go ahead and risk right now, given that there's a visual contact. I don't think it's a huge issue, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on the ventilation for the sub. think it's back there. This does change our noise, but given that there's no percentage number that shows up right here, so this is something I was going to be showing you anyway, right? Is basically your detection alert. So this is how detectable you are to all the various different types of technology or just bare eyesight, you know, that's available to the AI enemy warships in this game, or enemy freighters, of course. So visibility there on top, you can read the visibility of your ship in the current environment. And so I'm underwater right now, which means that my hull is not visible whatsoever. Makes sense, right? I get a bonus to my visibility. Bonus being the idea that I'm less visible. Due to the time of day, it's nighttime, right? And I'm not totally sure. I don't know about this, but I think the fact that there's a lot of moonlight might actually take a little bit of this bonus away. The time of day bonus. I think it could be better, is what I mean to say. Then there's a little cloudiness that's making me just slightly more difficult to see. And those two bonuses would really matter more for me if I was on the surface trying to get away. The next one down is the one that really does matter when you are escaping enemy warships who are conducting anti-sub warfare. And that is noise. The total noise generated by your boat minus the environmental noise. So my electric engines and my ventilation, both are making a considerable amount of noise. As it relates to the way that the numbers themselves work and how it generates the total noise at 91 decibels on the top there, I haven't quite figured out whether that's some kind of an average. I'm not sure. The numbers don't seem to quite add up, if you will, if you were to try to add them all together. But at any rate, you see there that surface noise is not a factor when it comes to concealing my boat. Surface noise is only 4% right now. Sonar detection, that's another big one when you are traveling underwater and you're trying to get away from enemy warships. They have sonar equipped on them. Many of them do, if not all. And sonar determines how audible your boat is to the active sonars on the surface. And so, if you understand how sonar works, it's a signal that goes out and can basically just pick up the structure of the boat for the most part. Ways to hide from sonar involve what I had already showed you, which was the sonar decoy right here. Or you can, as I was in Scapa Flow, but am not as much now, and it's probably hard for you to see anything here with the dark screen, but when you are close to the bottom, you'll notice here, if you look here at depth, this little number that keeps changing, you'll notice it changes as I move my mouse around the water. So you'll see the depth in this area where I was only 16, 15, 16 meters. Over in this area, it was only 9. Look at that. And I ended up scraping the bottom a little bit over here. It was pretty wacky. It was pretty wild. So, but one thing you can do when there is a little bit more depth to work with, really in water this shallow, it really doesn't help you that much. If you are in water that's a little bit deeper, maybe out kind of in the ocean, or toward the ocean just a little bit more, you're able to get down and actually use the bottom of the seabed to conceal you from sonar, because in that environment the people on the ship can't be sure that what sonar is picking up at, on the seabed is anything more than, a big rock. And, you're basing that on the premise of course, even now,
Kapitän?
however many decades later we are, still only have an incredibly limited amount of knowledge about what's under the sea. So I think it operates a little bit on that premise that their knowledge back in this time period was even more primitive. And so that's kind of how that works. And those are the two different ways that you can hide from sonar. Sonar won't come into play here because I'm making my way back to port and I'm actually in relative safety now. I'm far enough away from this gun here. I'm far enough away from this AA gun here, both of which can do a lot of damage. So now I think I'm in a safe enough position, even though I've just used my ventilators, to go ahead and go deck awash with the boat. And one thing I'll also do, I'm going to keep my reds on, but I'm going to get my officers back into their regulated, their regular schedule. And we'll make sure that as we do this, we get them staffed properly. Let's make sure we have him as our chief engineer like he should be. This fella here is conked out, unfortunately. So we may not have someone watching our engines as we make our way home. We did check the galley a minute ago. After this trip, yeah, we've used quite a bit of food. And there's one thing I wanted to make sure that I mentioned about food. So I think I had mentioned that food items are a lot like food units that don't necessarily mean much in their variation. It doesn't, bacon, it doesn't matter so much that it's pork, doesn't matter so much that it's potatoes. Well, it does in the sense that, excuse me, when you essentially vary your food items in your galley that the cook can prepare, you do gain a bonus for discipline. Discipline's an important factor in this game when you're in combat or battle situations and your crew is in an alarmed state. You can see here on the discipline meter, when discipline falls to 0, a random sailor may break under stress. Fatigue equals -3 discipline per minute. But thanks to varied dishes, discipline increases +8 per minute. And that's due to us preparing dishes right here in the galley that have a variety of food types. Now, the thing that becomes a problem for you is that if you put multiple food types in the galley, the sailors will consume all of those food types at the same rate. So they'll go through your food faster the more of it you put in the galley. You'll have to make sure and monitor that during your own missions. So here we are, making our way out of Scapa Flow. We've made our way up to deck awash, or we are arriving at this depth now. And now I'm going to go ahead and speed up time a little bit. We may yet run across an enemy patrol on our way out of here.
Im Dienst.
Oh. Our
Herr Kaloy.
poor engineer here has finally woken up. We'll put him as a chief engineer for now. I tell you what. I take that back. I'll keep him as a mechanic. Having him warm torpedoes is not a bad idea. This guy's getting tired. We're going low and slow. We could probably bring the speed up.
Schneller, schneller!
Off he went to sleep. Let's go ahead and take his 2 sailors back. Let's make this guy the engineer. Put him to work on the engines. Now, there is one complaint that I have about the game so far. There's one thing that I will raise to the devs that I think might be getting improved. I'm not sure. It is a little complex, but I feel like it's something that could be adjusted. So I mentioned before the difference between dynamic travel and realistic travel, with realistic travel being real time like we're in right now, all the time. Dynamic travel zips out of real time and into this dynamic travel time mode where time moves faster and you move faster, but the graphics on the screen look normal and pleasant. Now, what doesn't quite jibe, at least so far in my experience, is that your officers' fatigue seems to be set at a baseline using the dynamic travel mode as its baseline. So when you set your schedule, or when your officers are on dynamic travel, they fatigue at the rate that the game intends for them to fatigue. However, that doesn't translate to realistic time in my experience, where when it zips into real time, they'll continue to fatigue very, very quickly. And so when you're in dynamic travel, it takes a full day, let's say, for one of the officers to fully fatigue to where they crash out and go to bed without you having any say-so. Whereas when you're in the heat of it and it slows down to real time, an officer will fully fatigue in an hour or an hour and a half. Now, I don't know if that's meant to be representative of real life, seeing how high levels of stress do tax you more heavily in tight moments. But I wonder if it's not realistic in that despite that pressure, in real life, officers in war are forced to continue working and not go to bed. The mechanic built into this game, of course, is that if you fully fatigue, he passes out and he goes to bed. You have no choice on the matter.
So müde.
See? Boom. Just like that. And so, when you're in dynamic travel, an officer can last all day. When you're in real time in combat, an officer can really only last about an hour and a half or so. And here's the other bad thing about when an officer passes out, he takes the 2 sailors that he had with him, and they can't be used by any of the other officers in the crew. We're going to speed time back up, and we're going to try to get back out to... oh, we've got low air quality. And there I was not paying attention to air quality. Oops. I had thought coming to deck awash would actually give us a little bit better air quality. But we're going to surface the boat now. It's dark. Having just wrapped up a successful raid on Scapa Flow. This guy's going to pass out in a minute. So this is where it gets a little bit irritating. I have to take my guys off of their AI schedule and send them to bed because they're fatiguing so much faster. That's a little bit of an aggravation. So that I would say that would be one note I would send to the devs on this game. Otherwise, I find it to be really, really neat. We'll continue to make our way across the North Sea and on home. We may run into some enemy patrols out here, so we have to keep a vigilant watch. See? We have chimney smoke here. It may be going away from us. There was on my way out, I didn't mention this before, after I had crossed over the subnets and on my way out, a Corvette that was steaming in south and west. Ooh, we've got another one. Now we have to see where they're headed. And in order to do that, will require a little bit of time compression.
Im Dienst.
Looks like our mechanic here has woken up. We're at least going to take our 2 sailors back. And then we'll mark where these guys are now. Or near where they are. And you can see, based on the time compression as you saw it in front of you, that they are not headed in our direction. We're looking good. I'll erase those points. And we'll continue our trek. One thing that's to do, which is a bit risky, but considering the idea that these units are as far as 20 kilometers away, 23 kilometers, they shouldn't be able to really hear if I go ahead and turn on my air compressors to bring my compressed air reserves back to 100%. Compressed air reserves, I think I had mentioned it before, very important for when you want to go down and up and down and up and do it fairly quickly. Just love the boat. Just loving the boat. U-552. I call it a crew of devil's dancers, based, of course, on the 2 dancing devils there on the conning tower. We did the devil's work at Scapa Flow. We still have our friends here. We have deeper water that we could get to out here. So we'll set our course. And then we'll speed it up. And again, we're still in real time right now. This still hasn't popped back out into the dynamic travel mode yet, but it will soon. Once we get far enough away from Scapa Flow and far enough away from this chimney smoke, it looks like we're recharging our battery again. Good. It'll be full in about an hour and a half. So once day breaks, we'll be full battery again. And see here you had, okay, now, as you can see, we have switched back into our dynamic travel mode. And we can now send a radio message that we've completed our mission to BDU. First things first, I'm going to send, or I mean, turn my regular lighting back on. One thing that's to note when doing this is that normal lighting provides a plus 10% bonus increase to your cruise route. To give him a sailor so that we can send this message just a little bit faster. Horst Klug, our fine radio man. And then once I'm done doing that, I'll just have him go back. I'll right-click in the boat and just have him return to his AI-dictated schedule. And this is where fatigue isn't such a huge issue. Guys will be able to last a full day, not just an hour and a half. And they'll go back to their schedule as they were working before. I should apologize for you catching me in moments where I've been returning from combat. You're going to see me get into it, I promise. I have fun. I do have fun. I'm meticulous, certainly, but I have fun. So, now that we're in relative safety, we will have to continue to watch out for aircraft. That could become an issue, but despite that,
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
I'm going to go ahead and set a course for home. And then we're going to go ahead and bring the boat up to, we'll bring it up to maximum speed. This officer's about tired for the day. What we could do for him, which would help get us eased back into our regular schedule, is to give him some coffee. Coffee works like it does in the real world in this game. You can see his energy is now boosted by that much. And he didn't move either. So it's kind of a useful utility. I'm redundant. It's kind of useful. We'll give our engineer a little bit of extra caffeinated sustenance. And off we go. Like I say, for the most part, I like to at least try to be able to react in the case that aircraft might come across me. But I'm going to go ahead and increase the time compression because I can't leave you guys just waiting around. Once I pass into what I consider to be relatively safe water, I'll go ahead and increase to ×5 fast travel. For now, I stick with ×1. Now, there's one important thing to mention at this juncture of the experience, and it is navigation. So you'll notice I don't have anybody assigned to the navigation station right here. It's important. I might not have mentioned it in the last episode. You, in history, would have really always wanted someone calculating your position and making sure that the boat was remaining on course. That was an ongoing job on a U-boat. And where it's important and the way that it functions in this game is that you can get lost if this navigation correctness figure or percentage decreases to 0 and stays there for too long. It can go to 0, but when it is at 0, that's your indication to make sure you have someone who is working that navigator station. It is best to make sure that they have a full staff, and it's also best in that case to make sure, and it'll help us now, that our gyro compass is turned on. That would have been an important thing to remember. So as I'm moving the game into faster mode here, I'm just going to make sure I'm keeping track of this number. And now, also, one thing that's worth talking about, just in terms of strategy, is we're going into nighttime. And you'll notice here, just about everybody in the sub in a leadership position is bedded down for the night. Now, you might think I'd be interested in perhaps making sure that I still have a good watch. Although, I say, we may run into warships. We will still see them. Aircraft aren't going to be a problem. It's nighttime, most likely. So I'm okay with not having a robust watch on the conning tower. Despite it, hey,
Kapitän.
I suppose I might have forgotten. I was going to have a watch anyway. So the AI is there for you in times. And we continue our trek home. Our navigation number getting lower. What we'll do is make sure that when our captain wakes up, he'll be assigned as a boatswain. As a matter of fact, he may get up and get right to it. Oh, this is a glitch that's happening in build 128. I think they've corrected it, but this glitch happens when you change their role. They will be confused. They'll go to a station and then go back to bed, and then they'll go to a station and then go back to bed. They'll get up and they'll sit down. They'll get up and they'll sit down. You have to remedy that, as far as I can tell, by just right-clicking No, you actually have to click on the station where you want them to work. I'll assign him 2 sailors. Ah, now we have fog. Very good. For some reason it says our compressed air reserves are low, even though we have 100%. I'll turn on this air compressor just to satisfy the game. And now that we have this fog, we don't need you as a guy on the periscope. Silly, we're on the surface. We could go ahead, pick up the time. Now, I am going to slow it back down right about now. And the reason why is because oftentimes fog burns off, but not in this case. This is good. This is very good. We want this weather. It's a nice, wet, cloudy ride home. No big deal. Waves aren't too heavy. This should be a nice trip home. And just for your enjoyment, I'd love to tune you in to the soulful sounds, although I think the Reich masters back in the fatherland would not appreciate us listening to enemy radio music on the radio. We'll play Radio Gibraltar. It's lively. It's fun when you get to the crew quarters. It goes up a bit, the volume. On my voyages, I like to just kind of jam out sometimes. I won't lie. That guy sets a clarinet on fire, doesn't he? All right. On our way home, we'll enjoy a little music. And it's not just for us, the player. No. No, no, no. They have worked it into the morale system as well. Now that there's music playing, our discipline increases by 10 per minute. Now, there won't be many times, I will tell you, where in the midst of a combat situation or direct contact with enemy ships, that you will ever be able to play music to increase morale. However, immediately after an action, perhaps more when you are in safe distance, you can play music in order to increase morale. We have a new contact. I would bet my life that's another U-boat. So we'll let it go. It's not heading our direction. Yeah. What's next? Oh, they're going to play that hit again. Rerun that one. Folks, it's a hit. We'll have to see what comes next. Our quartermaster man can turn into a watch officer now. Good to keep a good watch. It is broad daylight now. Everything, the storm, the fog, all has burned off, has passed over. I am far away from enemy territory, though, so I feel good about bringing us on home. And record scratch.
Kapitän?
Why did that happen, I wonder? Well, it's because our radio man went to bed. His shift was over. And so, when that happens, it's a record scratch. You lose the nice music, and he heads to bed, and you're back to the game's serious sub music. Now, I will say, it makes it so that when you want to just enjoy that music, you intentionally extend your travel trip to and from your patrol destination or mission destination. So it's a neat part of the game in that way. It makes long travel a little bit more enjoyable. It makes the management of the crew on a longer voyage that much more enjoyable. But I would say that tying it to the radio man can become a bit of a bummer because you can't continue to listen to the really nice music when you fast travel. Because the radio man, you'll get 30 seconds into a cool hip little song like that, and then it'll record scratch, and it will be as if there's just no point in having played the music at all. Here we've got another contact with a ship, probably another U-boat. Need not worry, all is well. We'll fast time it all the way home. Boom. Next up, you enter the shore area. You haven't seen this yet. This is another function of the game that slows you all the way back down to real time. 1 second for 1 second, 1 minute for 1 minute, 1 hour for 1 hour. You are going to wait a long time to get through anything. And the reason they do this, of course, is, pardon me while I wet my whistle, mainly because they want to prevent you from slamming into land, even though now, here's something that the devs might be able to take away. The AI course prevents me from taking any course that would run me aground. So it would stand to reason here, devs, perhaps that you could go ahead and let us get all the way into port in dynamic travel ×5 speed, ×1 speed, what have you. You don't have to slow it down. Maybe there's something to decipher between when you're coming to home port or when you're going to an enemy location. I can understand the idea that when you're going, for instance, to my last mission at Scapa Flow, time slowed down to real time. I was making an attack. I had a lot of decisions to make and circumstances were changing. That certainly should be slowed down when you get near that area. But I'm wondering if maybe there's a way to continue incorporating that fast travel element all the way into port. Because right now, when you get close to land, the game defaults to real time, and then you're essentially forced to take the rest of the way in. Looking like a cigarette boat. The speedboat. We're on our way into Wilhelmshaven, racing around the bend. Everybody, can you see the boat coming around the bend at 125 knots? It's like a speedboat when I was a kid on Lake of the Ozarks. They used to have those speedboat races. They would race around the corners, they ended up crashing, and it was bad. So that's what you have to do to get back to port. It's amusing. At the same time, it can be an extra step that may not be needed from a gameplay perspective. Here we are when you reach the next detectable object. The game slows you back down to real time, no less. You know, one of my favorite parts about this game is this smooth wake right here. There, devs, and the graphics on the boat, they've done fairly well with the urban environments, given the focus of the game, right? But the way they've cut this wake when you're going fairly slow in smooth water, excuse me, boy, they really got that right. I could just watch that all day. But I won't make you do that. So, off we go. Zipping into port. Hey! Oh, there's one thing that I need to do. And we'll slow the boat down to give ourselves a little bit more time to do it. We need to make sure we're flying the flag, gentlemen. We can't come into our home port looking unpatriotic. So there's one more lesson about how the game works. Out on mission, I take the flag down. Back in port, I'll raise the flag up. Come on, radio man. Here he comes. Out with the flag. And it's interesting, it's the Iron Cross. We don't have a swastika there. There you have, devs, I think a politically correct kind of thing there, perhaps. And I could be wrong about that, by the way. By the way, check me in the comments on that, because the Iron Cross was a prominent symbol for the German military, as we're actually going to be learning more about here when I get back into port. You see here they've done a pretty nice job with the urban environments when you're coming back in. I mean, given again what the focus of the game is, it's really not too bad. And then the port itself, which is your slip right here, which, by the way, nice little hint in this game, you can identify because it's the only slip that's got the lights on for you. So you can remember that for any of the other ports that you would visit. Kiel, Bergen, La Rochelle, La Spezia.
Jawohl.
And now, we're back. I love the time of day that it gave us to explore our home port. So after a successful mission, I'll go ahead and let all my sailors take a break.
Herr Kaloi. Kapitän.
A lot of the times, I'll just have my guys go to unassigned for starters. We don't need to worry about any old thing right now.
Kapitän.
And this I'm doing,
Herr Kaloi.
I think, both for function and just for role-playing. And at the same time,
Herr Kaloi.
I'll send them back to bed.
Kapitän.
They can all hang out in their bunks.
Herr Kaloi.
Because they would be getting off of the sub,
Kapitän.
going into Wilhelmshaven, eating at the restaurants, socializing at the taverns and things. So in place of a thing like that, well, my XO for some reason refuses to go to bed. Oh, I think it's because there aren't any more beds available. So let's go ahead and finish up the
Der
mission.
BDU wird viel über ihre letzte Patrouille reden. Gute Arbeit.
You can see here, got an Iron Cross recipient, Iron Cross second class, our Andreas Thum, an officer who just recently joined our crew. Iron Cross first class coming for Andreas Thum. Klaus Graf, our fearless captain, gains points to the next decoration, which will be the Knight's Cross with oak leaves. He's already earned the Knight's Cross. Mission summary here, we can see we sank a Flower-class corvette and a Hunt-class destroyer in Scapa Flow, meeting our mission objective, gaining 16,000 budget, 100% reputation, and the radio man Ernst Bucher, who will help us in a big way, really in a big way. All of our mission objectives completed. Reach Scapa Flow. Stay undetected in the direct neighborhood of the port. Done. Sink 2 Corvette-sized or larger ships. Done. Escape from Scapa Flow. Done. And here we have some of the written logged history of the mission. Now, we finished that up. I like to check in on headquarters. We have 2 projects underway. Ammunition production, armored conning towers. We are going to go with an kind of an AA-focused sub. Anti-air focused sub progression here. Is the way this is going, at least for the time being. I'm not researching hydrophones just yet. I'm not researching torpedoes just yet. I've already got accumulators, so I'd like to be able to fight against aircraft sooner rather than later. That's why I've decided to go with this. And frankly, I'm curious to see what new conning towers there would be made available to me. And I also was hoping that I would get some new AG high explosive ammunition for my deck gun as a result of ammunition production completion. We've got 40 days and 15 hours left here, 26 days, 8 hours left for armored conning towers. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we finish those. Next, mistaken click. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to check back in.
Der BDU hat viel über ihre letzte Patrouille geredet. Gute Arbeit.
And now that I've gained so much reputation, I'm going to see if I've got some favors that I can ask to improve my crew, to improve my ship even further. Wow. I have access now to boarding 7 officers. I'll take it. Next. From a role-playing perspective, I make this next decision. I'm going to give my guys just a couple of days off. And the way that I do that, it might be a couple of days, it might be just one day, is to reload torpedoes in my boat. And I'm going to go with T2s this time around. T2s are a little bit better in that the enemy can't see them. However, they do dud a fair bit more, so you have to preheat them. I'm going to mix the reload with some T1s. T1s won't dud as much, but the enemy can detect them when they're coming on a nice sunny day with a calm sea. They can see the torpedo coming from some time away or some, quite a distance, and they'll be alarmed more quickly. So I'll go ahead and allow time for those torpedoes to be loaded into my boat and give my guys a day off. About 2 days. Ooh, looks like our time has slowed a bit. Strange. Next, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our leading officer. And then we're going to see if there are any new missions available that I want to do, which there are, of course. Next, we could do, just for fun, since we really have the ability right now, this mission where we drop off a spy near Portsmouth. We'd have to travel through the English Channel to get there, which will be challenging in and of itself. But here is the big bonus. This time, we'll get 8,000 budget and we'll get another radio officer. And this is huge for us because it will help progress our research and improve our boat further. It's an easy mission, but it's a mission with really nice rewards. It's one that I really am interested in. I think it'll make my first priority right now, but we always have to do diligence, right? So we'll go ahead and look at the other two. We want a patrol sector here that is west of the UK, out in the Atlantic a ways, in nice deep water where we could probably do quite a bit of mayhem. Travel sector BE3 to BE6 on North Atlantic, 2250 kilometers inside it. To complete the patrol, you may receive additional orders after reaching the area. And when you complete all of this, the travel, you get 6,000 budget. You have to sink enemy trade ships with a total gross registered tonnage of 7,000 tons. You get 6,000 reward. A nice 12,000 total reward for finishing both, which is something that I find easy enough to accomplish just about every patrol. And then, of course, you gain the reputation points as well. The reputation percentage, I should say. But as an added bonus on this particular mission, we would get a war correspondent. Now, we have had this before. They are handy, though. This war correspondent, Klaus Hoffman, will join you on board to write an article about your U-boat, make a good impression, and ensure his safety. If you succeed and give him everything he needs to publish his piece, you'll get 5,000 budget as a reward. This is a grand total of 17,000 budget and a lot of reputation if we complete this mission. It'll take a long time to get there and get back, so it'll be a long travel mission with probably long waits before combat and between combat. Probably lots of merchant ships, maybe some action with convoys, maybe some action with aircraft along the way. It could be fun. But then we have our third and you can also see, by the way, the level of difficulty that they have selected for this particular patrol, and you can see a little bit higher risk, higher reward. Now, the hardest mission will be to patrol this area here, which is where we just came from, and it's also where there is a lot of enemy warship activity. In history, German U-boats often made the trek up and around England to get to their patrol sector. And so the Brits would send warships back and forth here, patrolling out around here, patrolling out around all throughout here. So we're likely to run into groups of ships that may seem like they're convoys, but end up being entire hunting parties of just warships. It won't be a so-called target-rich environment and could be quite risky. But let's look at the reward, right? If we complete the full 2,500 kilometer travel distance within the patrol sector and complete all orders after we arrive, we will gain 8,000 reward. We don't know what's in store when it comes to any additional orders that we might receive. It depends on what's scripted into the patrol. We need to sink even more tonnage. And like I said, it may be hard to find trade ships that count toward our tonnage. We'll get 8,000 as a reward, and we'll get Siegfried Gebhardt as another engineer to help us in our research efforts. And again, we have a war correspondent to go with us. And so we have these three choices for our next mission. A lot to think about. I will tell you, I'm fairly flush when it comes to the amount of money that I have. Let's take another look. I have 30,000 budget. I have... For some reason, the game appears to be running a little bit more slowly. I'm going to save it. I would need some more food. Most likely. But it wouldn't cost me a whole lot more to get it. I have full stocks of everything other than maybe potassium absorbers, which would be costly. But not too costly to stock up on. So I have a lot of what I already need. I didn't use a lot except torpedoes in that last mission at Scapa Flow. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to take that spy drop off.
Der BDU hat viel über ihre letzte Patrouille geredet. Gute Arbeit.
It'll be a nice little bump in cash, and it'll be a real
Dies sind die heutigen Aufträge
nice
aus der
addition
BDU.
in terms of
Rufe deinen
another
Raum.
radio man. That will be important for us going forward. And it won't be such a high-stress mission. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll be sneaking around and having to avoid the enemy all the same. See our mission objectives appearing on the screen. Completing your objective at night is really the smart way to do it anyway. So, that's the way we'll do it.
Was brauchst du, Herr Kaloy? Schau
We're
mal.
going to go back to the warehouse. We're going to begin by making sure we have all our torpedoes stocked up, which we do. Actually, we want to make sure that we have all of our torpedoes loaded up too. That is one thing. So we have a full load of torpedoes in the bow. And we have a full load, I believe, yes, in the stern. So all we need is food and equipment and other supplies. Like I said, I've got plenty of money for all of that.
Was brauchst du, Herr Kaloy? Schau mal.
We'll take the rest of those, as many as we can get. That's quite a bit, see? Minus 6,500. That's not cheap by any means. Food. We'll take some more pork and vegetables. With 20,000 left, I'll end up with 28,000 or so at the end of this mission. Right near, but just a little bit less than where I came back this time. We're going to fuel up the boat. We're going to coffee up the cabinet. Coffee, vital in a pinch. We have weapons if we need them. Rebreathers, just in case. Ammunition. We have all the ammunition that we can take. Just about. Our flat gun's a little light. So we'll be, technically you might say, a little ammo light. We could store more ammo in our storage room, but we've got plenty of food we need there, sonar decoys, and replacement parts. I like the way that loadout looks. A little bit more spending maybe than would have been ideal, but let's also look at how we might upgrade our ship. We don't have access to a snorkel yet. Accumulators 2 could be studied. We have accumulators 1. Helps our batteries last longer, I guess. Oh, I don't have accumulators 1 yet. I have studied them. I can buy them for 16,000 budget. Boy. It's a little rich for us right now, and we don't need them on this next mission. I think I'm going to go ahead and leave off of that. Armored conning tower is what we're going to be studying. That's going to cost us a pretty penny. We'll need a rich mission in our next one. We have already purchased the improved toilets, which is helpful for morale when we're deep underwater. And here's Hans Mobauer, our spy. So we have just about everything we need. It's going to take another day or so to load all of it up. And you can see that the game is acting a little strangely. I'm going to save it again and probably end this video. Pick it up on the next one when we take off to drop off our spy in southern England. Let's go ahead and run through the next day and we'll save the game there. I really appreciate you watching. Please leave a comment, give the video a like, hit the bell notification, subscribe. I'd love for you to continue watching and to tell me what I'm getting right, what I'm getting wrong. Contribute to a conversation about this game. It's so great. And I'll see you on the next one.